Okay, so now that we have our fish rigged and all ready to go, we want to go through and we want to start animating it. Now the first thing that I want to do is switch over to the animate tab. So you go up and click animate tab. And the first thing we want to talk about is actors. Now an actor is just a group of items that you set aside and you say this is a certain group that I want to use to keyframe with and to create actions with and animations with, and I can use that actor to do all kinds of things. So the first thing I want to do is create an actor. And so I'm going to go to my palettes here and I'm going to say item list, and then I'm also going to say groups. And you'll notice in my item list here I've got my joint hierarchy, and I'm just going to grab all of these. Actually, I'm just going to go head to spine, okay, and I'm going to say actors, create new actor, and I'm going to call it tropical fish, and say okay. So now what I've got is I've got this actor, and it's basically a collection of 4 items, as you can see here, and I've got those 4 items, those 4 joints in this actor. Now inside this actor I'm going to have actions and poses. So let's talk what are the differences between actions and poses. An action is a set of keyframes for an animation. You could think about it as an animation clip. A pose is one keyframe of just a single pose. So I can create actions and I can create poses in here. So let's do poses first. Let's talk about a pose. So on this fish, if I just scrub to frame 0, if I want to create a pose, what I can do is I can say pose, create, store a new pose for the actor, or if I do this, it's just going to do nothing because I have nothing in here. What you have to do is you have to animate first, then store those values as a pose. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to frame 0 and I'm going to grab spine 1 to spine 3, and I'm going to set a keyframe, and I'm going to rotate it by, let's do 20. Okay? So this pose is called swim left, because if I'm the fish and I'm going this way, I'm going to swim, or swim right, excuse me. I'm going to swim to the right. Okay? So with those poses, I'm going to say poses, store a new pose for the actor, and with the animated channel, and I'm going to call it swim right. Okay. So now you'll notice under poses, I've got swim right. Okay. If I go back and I change it to -20, and then I say pose, store a new pose, I want to say swim left. Okay. Now I have 2 animations. So now if I grab this key and I delete it, and then I go to my poses here, I can go swim left and I can say set, and it makes it follow those keyframes. Now if I go to 5 and I go swim right and I go set, it's there, and now I have an interpolated animation. Okay, so that's what a pose is, and I'm just going to get rid of this. Okay, now I also want to do one called base, just for a base pose of what it is right now. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to select those 3 again, and I'm going to click Y and then say poses, store a new pose, and I'm just going to call it base. Okay, so now there's 3 poses in here. Okay, so now I want to create an animation. So I've stored 3 poses, and I want to create an action or an animation clip. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all keys on this fish. Okay, so there's nothing here. Now what I want to do is I want to use these poses to create an animation. And so I'm going to go to frame 0, and I'm going to grab all of the 3 spines, okay, and I'm going to say key the Y, okay, and then I'm going to go to frame 24. I need to go to my settings and set it to 24. Okay, I'm going to go to frame 24 and I'm going to hit key. What that does is it says, okay, these three joints have a keyframe on Y, and when I hit this, it says key all the animated channels, which are the same ones. So I keyed it there. Now, what I want to do is I could do that, or I could go to frame 0 and I could say poses, base, set, and it will make a keyframe there. Same thing here. If I go to frame 24, I can say base, set. It throws those keyframes down. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is go to 6, and I'm going to say pose, swim left, set. Okay. Then I'm going to go to frame 18 and say swim right, set. There we go. So now I've got this nice little swim animation. Okay. So if I play it, you'll notice it just goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Nothing big, okay? So now what I want to do is I want to go into my graph editor to change a few things. So I'm going to open up my palette and go to graph editor, and I have those 3 rotations highlighted. Now you'll notice that it starts here and the tangent of this is kind of sloped, tangent of this is kind of sloped, and it then goes into 0. That's because I have constant smooth set as my behavior, okay, on the in and out. But what I really want it to do is I want it to cycle. So I'm going to say repeat in the beginning and repeat at the end. And this way I can now grab these handles and I can straighten those out a little bit. I can straighten these out a little bit, and then I can grab this and say flat, and there we go. Now I've got a nice smooth graph, and I can hit play and back and forth and back and forth. Now there's one extra frame in there because it's cycling. Okay, it's actually playing 24 and 0. Okay, that's okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to offset the animation. Okay, so what we do is I'm going to open up, I'm going to grab these spines like this. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my settings and change the N to like 50 so we can see this. I want 1 to lead, and then I want 2 and 3 to follow. So I'm going to offset 2 by 3 frames and 3 by 3 frames. So now when I do it, it's going to jump at the end. But you'll notice now I have this nice smooth animation. Okay? But I want to make sure that my last frame of 24 and my first frame of 0 are the correct frames. If I go right now to my graph editor, they're correct. But if I switch to a constant, it's going to mess up those tangents. So what I want to do is I want to go to frame 0 and I want to key everything. Okay? Then I want to go to frame 24 and I want to key everything. Okay? And now when I say repeat or constant smooth, you can see it's just these keyframes. And what I can do is I can actually get rid of these 2 keyframes right here. Okay? So now if you notice, these 2 keyframes and this keyframe are the same as these, and it's going to have the same ins and outs on there. Okay? So now let's go here, let's go to 23. Okay? And we'll go to 23 right there. And if you notice now when I play, I get a nice smooth back and forward motion. Okay, so I've got these keys on the timeline. Now I want to get them into an action. Right now I don't have any actions in my scene. So what I want to do is go down to actor. I have my tropical fish chosen, and I go to actions, and I go to create new action for the actor, and I'm going to call it swim. And this transfer means any keys that I have on my timeline, I want them to go into this action that I'm creating. So I hit OK. And what it actually did is it switched from none to swim. So the action is now set at swim. And there's an action here. If I switch it to none, all that animation goes away. But now I have one called swim. Okay? So let's do this one more time. I'm going to go pretty fast, and I'm going to do an up and down. Okay, so I'm going to go back to none. Okay? And what I'm going to do is go to frame 0. And I'm not going to create the poses for this one, but I'm just going to do this. I want to key all the X values right here for these 3. I'm going to do this one more time. So key all the X values at 0. I'm going to key them at 24. Let's go to 50 just so we have some space here. Okay. So I'm going to go to 24 and I'm going to key them all again. Okay. And then at 6 I'm going to key them. And at 18 I'm going to key them. Okay. But at 6 I want him to go up. So I'm going to do this -20. Okay. And then at 18 I'm going to go here and go 20. So now it's down. Okay. So now I have up, down, like that. Let's go to our graph editor. And we're going to switch this to repeat and this to repeat. I'm going to even these out, or change the tangents here. Tangents here. Grab these two, set them to flat. Okay. And then I'm going to go back here. I'm going to offset these 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 right there. So now we have this up and down movement. Okay. I'm going to go to frame 24 and I'm going to key everything, and frame 0 and key everything. Okay. Then I'm going to switch over to my scene. I'm going to switch my scene to 23 frames, and now when I hit play, I have a nice smooth motion on this fish. Okay, so now I'm going to say actions, create new action, and call it up, down, and I want it to transfer, and I hit OK. So now I've got up, down, and if I switch it over to none, there's no animation on here. Okay, so that is how you create poses and actions and actors, and how you can set up your scene so that you can create a lot of different animations, and you can copy keyframes. You can create a pose from one end of a keyframe and you can paste it into another action, so that you can go in transition from one to the other. So that's a really helpful way to do animation. So I'm going to go to this. So now he's swimming. Now it's up, down. Now it's none, swim. Okay. So that's it for this tutorial. That's how you basically set up all that stuff. And in the next one, I want to show you how you export your fish, export the animations, and export and get it all into Unreal.